Well, let's speak to Gidi now, who served as the secretary for the Israeli delegation to the Camp David peace negotiations with the Palestine Liberation Organization between 1999 and 2001. He's also the author of Insights, Peacemaking in the Oslo Process, 30 Years and Counting. Gidi, hi. Welcome to the programme. What do you make of Keir Starmer's intervention today?
Well, I believe that the British and the French are now facing an opportunity to define or to contribute to the definitions of parameters of the political process moving forward. Namely, it really depends whether the statements are going to be kind of a top line from the current condition to the permanent status. I do want to remind the audience for permanent status put forward by President Clinton in 2000 and by President Trump in January 2020. Both of them speak about the path and end game of the relations between Israelis and Palestinians. My rule is anything that overlaps between those two proposals is a good idea for moving forward. Two examples one is what would be the borders. There is a principle that the future borders will be based on UN Security Council Resolution 242. I think that principle needs to be reinforced because it was accepted by Israel and by multiple Arab parties, including the Palestinian side. They could also say that once a Palestinian state is established, it is within the principle of two nation states for two people. The resolution of the Palestinian refugee problem will be within that Palestinian state, thereby alleviating a major concern for Israel. And of course, there cannot be a UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, in a Palestinian state once established. I'm just giving these as two examples of very important statements that could be made by President Macron, by the British political leadership, by Starmer, that will give a call of direction for the political process moving forward.
I get that, but whatever they desire, if the Israelis are point blank refusing to cooperate here, which they are doing, because Netanyahu's been pretty unequivocal with his response, for the benefit of the listeners, you'll know this, Gidi, but he said Hamas's monstrous, what Starmer has said rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's borders today will threaten Britain tomorrow, and effectively he said this just isn't going to happen. So whatever Starmer and Macron work together to provide will not necessarily bear fruit, will it?
Of course, there is the current positions of the Israeli government reject any of these ideas. But if you look down the road, Israel will face a very difficult strategic dilemma, which is what to do with Gaza. Right now, we're edging toward taking over. Israel is edging toward taking over and full control of Gaza. There will be tremendous economic, administrative, political, and diplomatic repercussions for that. And there are a lot of people in Israel, including within this government, that don't like this idea. So the question is, what is the alternative? And within that, it's clear that the political framework for moving forward is first and foremost the Camp David Accords of 1978 between Israel and Egypt, then leading to the Oslo Accords that were signed in 1993 to 1995. And within that, the Palestinian Authority is the self-governing body of the Palestinian side that will eventually need to govern the Palestinian population both in the West Bank and Gaza. This is the inescapable reality, even for Israel, even for this government, meaning the Israeli government at some point either takes full responsibility for Gaza or acknowledges that the self-governing body of the Palestinians, which is the Palestinian Authority, is the Palestinian partner to work with. Because the Israeli government is refusing to acknowledge the Palestinian Authority, it finds itself right now in this incredible paradox where it is effectively negotiating with Hamas. And not only that, the Americans are negotiating with Hamas. So these are the kind of strategic dilemmas that the Israeli government is facing right now, notwithstanding their rhetorics. I do believe it's a pivotal inflection point around Gaza, and a lot of things may be on the table very soon that are now, are now rejected out of hand.
One of the issues moving forward, and we're going to hear from a Palestinian later on. We spoke to him who lives in Khan Yunis, and he was saying, look, he's no fan of Hamas, but he said we want a democratic future for Palestine. But he reserved the right to vote for whoever he wanted to vote for, and the Palestinians reserved the right to have leading them whoever they want. And that is something that the Israelis and maybe even the Americans can't countenance, is it?
Of course not, because first of all, we have to understand and remember that there is an agenda, there is a plan for upgrading and reforming the Palestinian Authority. The second piece is that the Oslo Accords themselves have a provision that in order to participate in the Palestinian political system, namely in order to be elected to the elected bodies of the Palestinian Authority, the self-governing Palestinian body, you have to accept the Oslo Accords, because the Oslo Accords are the source of power that created the Palestinian Authority. Of course, the Palestinians have a different view, but these are the accords. And Israel, the U.S., Egypt, Jordan, all Arab countries, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they all agree to this. Namely, that Hamas, as an entity that rejects the idea of Israel and right of Israel to exist, cannot participate in the Palestinian political system. This is not a new demand. This exists in the current agreements that are enforced. The challenge for Israel is that Israel will not, this government will not now acknowledge the agreements, the Oslo Accords, that it is itself a signatory to, and that's the dilemma. Meaning the existing accords already provide some of the key building blocks for moving forward. And I think, by the way, that that's another fact that should be acknowledged by whoever recognizes the Palestinian Authority, that it is within the Oslo Accords, it is within a recognition of the state of Israel, it is within the principle of two nation states for two people. And when such recognitions are taken in this context, they could actually move the system forward. Last and not least, let me be very clear. Hamas is against the two-state solution. Hamas is against the Camp David Accords. So it's kind of a stretch for me to see how a step, a political move that reinforces the Oslo Accords, reinforces the principle of two-nation state, is a victory for Hamas. In my view, it's a setback for Hamas.
Okay. Well, Gidi, look, we'll leave it there. The line isn't great, but we got every word. So thank you very much indeed. Thanks for your time.